Welcome, though. Nice group, nice size group, and you're also a nice group. I say that hoping that you're not going to attack later on, but no. We want you to feel free this evening to really express yourselves and to, say what's on your hearts. How many people were at the November meeting? We had parent meetings in the fall too, and boy, were you open in November. Hold it back a little, all right? No, not really. That was amazing and terrific, and we actually have a volunteer typist. We could use one from the previous night. We could use someone from this evening as well. That we could give you all the newsprint, and you could type up a report. Our hope is, and our goal is, to actually release the information from both nights tomorrow. So to get it right back out to y'all. No editing, all right? Again, flow free. We're going to, in a little bit, we're going to have a small group discussion format like we did before. And so before we get started, I just wanted to see if we could identify our group leaders for at least the first discussion. Could everybody stand for a moment? We just want to, this is another trick to make you stay awake while I talk, if you could. And before I have this first activity, I'd like you to just join me in a word of prayer for this evening, asking the Lord's blessing on our work. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much. There are two or more of us gathered this evening in your name. We ask that to make a difference in our hearts as we contemplate the challenges / opportunities before us here at Trinity School Ministry, one of many ministries in this wonderful church. We know we lack perfection, as our programs lack perfection, but we're attacking our responsibilities here as parents and staff and congregational members and leaders with gusto, because we're never going to be satisfied with your work. We want it to be the best that we can possibly offer you as thanksgiving for the gift of your Son Jesus and the rescue he affords us because of his saving grace from all perplexity. We look forward to life eternal with you because of our faith in him, and we plunge now into our work with you at our side. Amen. Please remain standing. Pick a group leader. Once you have a group leader in your group, then take a seat. Oh, and it shouldn't be a teacher. Don't pick a teacher. Pick somebody else. Guess it helps to be tired. Okay, what are we going to try to accomplish this evening? You can see our bullets before you. Looking at the bigger picture, looking at that Thriving Schools survey, 40 pages of data, 60 pages of narrative. You guys were busy writing. How many used more than one pencil? Had to go on to 3 or 4, I don't know. You guys are busy out there. What the school costs. And our partnership is legs of a 3-legged stool, which we've talked about before. For me, my introspection and thinking about where we needed to go and where we were began when I first contemplated the call to come here. And I called upon God in prayer and asked him to bless my contemplation. And then when I went and was interviewed, when people interview you and they ask certain questions, those questions are designed because they've got challenges in mind, and needs in mind. And so that was actually a good opportunity for me, before I even knew whether I was accepting a call or being led to the call, to think about Trinity and its opportunities. And then I with staff, ESM, church council, pastor, and others, embarked on developing a 90-day plan, and in November, in 2 separate meetings, parents vetted that and gave us lots of ideas on where we might be missing the mark or where we should emphasize things, and what should be emphasized. And then this Thriving School survey, and I don't know if it matters who gets credit for that. It wasn't me, but much of these things, the Best Christian Workplace, the Thriving School survey, those things were the work of the people that preceded me. Your acting principal, I guess Pastor / Steve and Nicole and others that worked together to continue moving us forward. What a wonderful plan and what wonderful data and input we got. It's not always what you want to hear. And I think the best example of having to listen and benefiting from information that we don't want to hear would be the 2-day retreat we did as leaders, where they identified us sometimes by name, and sometimes it wasn't what we wanted to know, but we want to know everything in order to be better in our service to our loving Lord. And so sometimes you got to choke it up, and that's what we were doing for a couple of days, and a heightened level of transparency. And then here we are again as parents and staff working together to try to understand this very complex thing called a school, and this very complex and wonderful opportunity called ministry. And then following this, actually Sunday when I was saying this, I was saying following this, but now preceding this, we have a state recognition process that we went through. Months of work. Is Nicole in the room? I think she had to phase out of the meeting so she's not here, but when you see her and Jennifer Ebert and Ruth is here, isn't she? I'm not over here. And Ruth Ebbinghaus and Sue Burka, they were here, all 4 of them were here Saturday and Sunday, fine-tuning. We felt we had pretty much met the standard for recognition, but we just wanted to go right up to the 11th hour to make sure we hit a home run. There was a member in the team today that told us, he was from Emmanuel, Batavia, and he said, I thought we hit a home run, and I know the guy is a perfectionist, and when they were evaluated, he had already gone through this a year or 2 ago, and he said, you guys just, what was the phrase? We blew them out of the water. And so not only did we meet the state standards in all categories, but we exceeded them significantly, and they were. It was a fun experience to sit and listen to that. But even with that, they asked hard questions, and it caused us, and even the process caused us to look at ourselves. As David Smith, the leader of the team, said, we learned more probably up until today than we learned actually today. Now today it's different for you, and this evening for us, because we're going to learn a lot more as we listen to you and listen openly and welcome your criticism. The best thing we could do is to not fight, back or be defensive, but for us to just let it all hang out and to share and to be honest with reflection. One might say that perception is reality. So I mentioned earlier we had 100 pages of data from our workshop. There's a lot of information. In the next few weeks, the ESM and other subgroups of ESM, we will have a school improvement committee, and other subcommittees are going to be reviewing the results. And that 90-day plan that we started with, which basically ended yesterday or today. Today's the last of 90 days, not counting Christmas and New Year's. But so now that will become a 3-year milestone calendar. So we'll have a multi-year plan that will arise from that. Many of the items that were identified, as it says here, some results don't need much interpretation. Many items are an easy fix, and some of them we began even before the survey was taken. Some of those things that we began a couple of months ago, we're still struggling with, and we'll talk about those as we look at the actual results. Highs and lows. The first one, interesting, the reason families choose Trinity is largely for our academic excellence. So teachers present, you should be really proud that this reputation precedes certainly me and some of the younger teachers, but nonetheless is something that all teachers, young or experienced, have built for Trinity. And I think for our Lord as well, opportunities to witness to His wonder and saving grace. On the low side, satisfaction index, Trinity families who participated, the percentage of families that were satisfied was slightly lower than the average. You can see 78 versus 83. So obviously this is a key area that we want to drive upward, and I believe we can do so with the formula of listening sincerely, planning together, sharing ownership with all stakeholders, and actually doing. One of the first things we thought of with our action planning under Best Christian Workplaces, we've got to actually plan action that can be measurable and that we can periodically check out. and improve our communication, because after all, there's some wonderful things going on. Hundreds, if not thousands of experiences each day, not each day, but throughout each day and week and month here at the school that parents aren't aware of, and people outside of Trinity aren't aware of. And so we need to tell that story better. And even that enhanced communication may improve some scores, but the reality is we can do some things better as well. 86% of the families, and this was much higher than the average throughout the synod, reported no problems with the school at all in 12 months. And the 14% who did report problems, a very high percentage of those reported that their problems were solved satisfactorily. So if you're one who's had problems, that probably doesn't make you feel that much better to know that. And when we regret that, and I apologize on behalf of myself and my role and anyone else here representing the school for you to endure either any lack of attention or in your minds or our shared concern, lack of satisfaction with the results. And then lows would be openness to parent input, and there were a number of concerns about middle school program as a block to our partnership. That's all of these things we're going to be looking at, as I said, more intently with the help of subcommittees and faculty and staff working diligently to discover where there may be misperception and where there's accurate perception, where we can improve. So we'll continue to look at ourselves, meet together and strategize, and we'll continue to seek and value your input. We'll listen then act. Our 90-day plan will turn into a 3-year plan. Next, another high, satisfaction with Christian education of our students and academic subjects was rated high. Isn't it wonderful that one of the highest things is the Christ-centeredness, the Christian education, which is our number one goal here? So we hit that one out of the ballpark. Accommodation of learning styles and issues around homework was rated low. In this one, we'll dig into that as well and think about ways in which we can be more effective in differentiation and addressing the variance in learning styles. My experience in conversations with parents about this business of homework, there are actually opposite opinions. So it's a little, like many of these things, it may be difficult to sort out when you have opposing views, where maybe the same teacher or the same grade level, parents raised an issue about too much homework, and some in the same grade level said too little. So, where do you go? So we've got some thinking to do. But generally, this one was about coordinating homework so that you don't have this ebb and flow where all of a sudden everything's due the same day. Better communication. This is an interesting high. Parents of graduates rate their students' preparation for high school as high, significantly higher than parents who currently have children in the school. So I'm guessing that some of those parents who rate us high because their children are now successful at high school or college might have complained when they were parents of students while they were attending here. And they might have been troubled over whether what's happening here actually makes a difference, an important difference in the lives of their children. So what our teachers might be doing today might be helping and equipping your children for greatness, and we're not even aware right now. Doesn't mean we can't be honestly reflective and to continue to be the best that we can be and to stretch. We should never be satisfied. Online tools, boy, is that a secret? I don't think so. Man, and this one's one we've really been struggling with for a couple of months. I'm gratified right now that there actually is a company, an individual that's apparently just a genius, who's actually put monitoring controls throughout the system now to figure out if it's Comcast or if it's this or the networks or if it's software from Headmaster or whatever it is. Because even with the other experts within each of those silos, they're perplexed and don't know what the problem is. Hopefully this now will help us to kind of sort out where this problem is we're dealing with, which is significantly plaguing the school and our relationship with parents. I know calendar, right? Online, that's another one. So something that we've addressed and I think have a good solution for, but now need to get better at how we utilize it. Curriculum needs to be reviewed and revamped. There we're just going to look critically at the relationship between what we do and what other students outside of our school are doing who will meet together in high school, and be sure that our students remain as competitive as they have been for decades coming out of Trinity School. The survey was initiated by Trinity to provide a baseline evaluation for 4 purposes. And one is to make a clear break with the past, to just say, let's start again, and not start over, but let's take a new point here and kind of leap forward in attempting to make our school, I think you've seen in print a couple places, the best in the country. I always like to think about being the best on the planet. If you're the best on the planet, that starts to get out of your realm, your comfort zone, so you kind of say, well, I don't know quite what that means. And when you don't know what it means, then you finally have to retreat back to what God's given you and think about just how can I be the best that I can be with the gifts God's given me, and not worry about whether I outshine the guy that lives next door to me. There's somebody across the block or down the street in Roselle. And I think that's when we achieve greatness. And I know I'm talking a little bit too long here. We've got a lot to accomplish. But we want to improve the partnership, school climate, as well as the climate of the relationship between school and parents, provide an avenue for parents to express satisfaction and concerns, address them transparently, publicly, and productively, and develop annual measures for the progress that we hope to achieve. Our commitment is to develop an action plan, hold ourselves accountable, have measurables, involve lots of stakeholders in the planning and actually the execution, develop a school improvement committee, and we will be asking you later during our discussions to either volunteer or recommend some folks that might be able to help us. 3 or 4 improvement areas will be identified annually for immediate action and chief priority, and future budgets and programs will emphasize these things that we collectively believe are important.
All right, thanks. Again, my name is Dave Vance. Our group had a few surprises in the responses. One, first was recognition about Trinity's academic performance and how superior it was to other schools, locally, statewide, nationally. So that was actually a surprise. We're also surprised that the openness communication was rated low. Our group felt like if you needed to reach out and speak to a teacher, you could do so and you got a timely response. We were a little vague on what the middle school issues were. It's more of a category. We really didn't get into what are the issues. We really couldn't respond as to what that was. Workload balance, we weren't quite sure if it's just all the teachers piled up on kids for Friday homework assignments and we're looking for coordination of that, or we weren't getting enough homework. Weren't quite sure exactly what the ask was there.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave. Okay, right here.
All right, Dave Kelly. We have a theory about the middle school expectation issue. No. Yeah, I got to put it on. Okay.
Do you want me to hold it for you?
Thank
Keep
you.
going.
Okay. We think that the elementary school teachers have done an excellent job of training the parents as how we should interact with them, and then the rules change at middle school. And there's a different expectation from the teachers on what we want to teach the kids and to make them accountable. And we think that that is maybe some of this disconnect. And I think we just got to figure out how to, once you get to that level, how the parents and the teachers are supposed to work together. So there's a little bit of a gray area there. And we talked quite a bit about there's just way too many communication sources here. There's handbooks, there's stuff that's handed out on the first day, there's newsletters, there's emails, there's all this stuff. We need to figure out a better way of consolidating some of that because it's just a little overwhelming that there's just too many things and you go searching for them. Anything?
That's good.
All right.
Hey, put your hands together. Thank you. Okay, one more report here.
Hey, I'm Tony Mintrop, and let's see, Team Green here. We actually, here's the surprise. We weren't surprised by anything that was on the survey results. The highs and lows kind of jived with things that we agreed with. So one of the unique questions that wasn't brought up was, as far as kids being qualified from an academic standpoint, and ready for high school. What about emotionally and socially, and transitioning from Trinity to a public school, and how do we track and measure that? So that's one question that we have outstanding.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just because Dr. Libka hasn't been here long enough and doesn't know the formula and all the finances, he's asked me to cover this section of our workshop this evening, the school cost workshop. Now, there's both confusion and concern about everything. There's sometimes a lack of information about costs and fairness, and rather than project next year and where we're going next year, what we really want to do is help you understand and explain what's happening with our school and school finances. The school cost, we have $1.175 million. That's for school wages and benefits. And then $174,000, almost, around 10% in addition to that, is for support staff. Now, where this is cost and benefits for wages and benefits for teachers and direct folks that interact with the school children every day. But the $174,000 includes a portion of the receptionist, our finance folks, folks who clean and our cleaning services, those kinds of other folks that are around here that assist and are not direct school teachers. Then the next portion is user fees, $82,000, user fees and athletic expenses. Now these expenses include all the field trips, all the referees, any transportation that we pay for coaches and others to get to places. So anything that has to do with the fee is totals $82,000. Then the next $90,000 is our technology and textbook expense. The technology and textbook expense includes all the textbooks that we purchase through the year, but also all of the work that we do for the kids replacing computers and putting up smart boards and all those other technology things. As an example, there are some things that are in the budget and are outside of the budget. For instance, it was a grant from the Trinity Roselle Foundation, which has provided a new Wi-Fi service throughout our entire building in anticipation of going to one-to-one computing. And when you think about that's I think that was $18,000. So that's not included in the technology cost that we spend. Then $84,000 is grant and aid and bad debt. That's every year we have between I'd say $15,000 and $40,000 of bad debt, depending on the year. That means parents who do not end up paying their tuition that we've agreed to. And in essence, they're taking a grant when we haven't offered one. But also, we give away, this year we've given away so far about $65,000 of grant and aid, and we still have some more to give away. So we're looking at the second semester and looking at more assistance. The next piece out of that $87,000 is other direct school costs, and that includes things like the startup supplies that teachers buy. Boy, I'm trying to think of other things. It's a lot of materials that we purchase, some of the paper costs, some of the workbooks and consumables that we purchase. The next piece out of it is building principal, mortgage, interest, and insurance. That's $350,000. That pays for the building that we are in right now, and not including the direct church sanctuary, but basically all the rest of the places that our school uses. And finally, another $336,000 of general expenses, utility, and maintenance. And that's just light and heat. Well, although we're not having heat tonight, we do have a light. So it's everything. It's how many times we've snow plowed, and this year we've used more than our budget already for snow plowing and salting, because we've had a lot of icing problems. And so we're regularly out there, and we're very concerned about making sure that our parking lot is safe for everyone. And so those are the expenses as you go along. It adds up to $2.378 million for an annual cost for our school. Now, when you think about that per student, 2.378 total costs. We have right now, we started the school year with 255 students. Right now, I think we're down to 252. And that puts our average cost at 255 at $9,325 per student. Now, think about that and what tuition is and what our expenses are, and we'll show you exactly how this works together. And if you flip to the other side, you'll see where our costs are. Boy, my legend keeps disappearing. We have this annual cost here of 2.3. Then we have just almost $1.1 million of parent tuition minus the discount that multiple families get, minus the grants that we give, and the bad debt. So when we pay for it, we have to drop out all the things, the money that we don't get. So basically, any tuition that we give, or scholarships that we give, or breaks we give, all that's doing is lowering the amount of tuition that we end up receiving over against the school costs. Then the next piece is $135,000 of user fees, athletic fees, and miscellaneous income. And so the user fees, as we think about user fees, they pay for all kinds of things that in other schools that you'd normally get. When I was going through and we didn't have user fees at this level, I had 4 kids going through here, so we had a field trip a week. We had to write another check, and it was always writing another check to Trinity. We lump all those together, as well as we've kind of cost averaged them over the years. What was happening is, if you think about what you get in your 8th grade year and in your 6th grade year, those 2 years, there are some folks that were spending $1,500, $2,000 in addition in those 2 years because of the different trips that they take and all the other things that happen, in particular in those 2 years. We've lumped those all together. Then the next thing is $168,000. That's grant and aid and school fundraising. That's every bit of school fundraising we do, the grant and aid fundraising we do. So that's the auction, that's the matching gifts, that's the walkathon, that's just everything that we do to raise money for our school. Then $40,000. This last year we received a $40,000 foundation grant, not for just the laptops and getting the Wi-Fi going, but the foundation grant also paid for some of our scholarships for students to come to Trinity. After that, $525,000. That's the baseline, the first bit of money that the school receives directly out of the general fund. So we always budget $525,000 into that. And then there's, how do you make up the rest of it? Well, there's $431,000 of indirect support. So it's not out of the general fund, but it comes out of the building fund. It comes out of, this year, the security was paid for, security increases were paid for by SOFR Double Harvest. Other things that other members of our congregation pay for. So in reality, what happens is 51% of the cost of education is paid for by parents. That means somebody else pays for 49%, and those are all the partners that you have in this ministry. The partners include folks like Karen and me. We are so thankful for 8 kids coming through here. That what we do is we write a check for the cost of one child's education here every year on top of our offerings to the church, and that work we pay for one child to come here. There's no way that we can ever pay back. When we were going through, we couldn't have done that. Now that we're out, we want to be able to do that, and we're thankful and we're blessed by God to be able to do that. And so when you think about this, well, this is the general fund pieces. I keep on losing the legends for some reason. The next thing is the $525,000 out of cash this last year came from the general fund, but then there was another $131,000 that came out of the general fund that we didn't expect to spend. And that had to do with when we don't get all the tuition that we plan, and when we have to give more scholarships. We had, as an example, we had somebody where in our family of faith where both parents lost their jobs this year suddenly without notice. Well, we did not plan to give a full scholarship to that child, but we sure did, because we will work with everybody to make this happen. And so that means that all the rest of our ministries, everything else that we do that depends on the general fund, all is $1.3 million, basically. So those are the percentages of the general fund use. Our tuition philosophy, some parents aren't going to be able to pay for this. Some parents are, and frankly, see it as a great investment. But none of us hardly can pay for this while our kids are at Trinity. So I encourage you to think about this. As your children leave here, think about the next generation of kids that are coming along and continue to support our school. The school, we're going to need support from the general fund and other sources. It's our most expensive ministry, single ministry that we do out of if you think about a $2.3 million budget, and we have about a $5.8 million annual budget for everything else. It's about half of the costs of what else we do here, but it's not the only thing that we work on here. And without a fully functioning congregation and committed non-school partner members, Trinity could not have a school. So, if we didn't have all the rest of us who are not parents pitching in one way or the other, how would that other 49% be made up? And so it's important for both of us to value one another and to understand the sacrifices and the decisions that we're making together as partners. Continuing on, multiple child families will receive additional support from the congregation to lower their tuition bills. And we've had to balance this out. We had it where the second child paid 75% of the tuition, the third child paid 50% of the tuition, fourth child free. Now we've changed it to $750 for the first child, $750 for the second child, and the fourth child free, because so many parents with a single child says, basically, you're asking me to support the multiple child family. So you can't give away that much money, that much of my money. My tuition is going up because of that family over there, and that's the practical side of it. So we balanced it out. I'm not sure that we've come to that balance point yet, and we have to figure that out as a family of faith. But no member child will be denied a Trinity education, and here's the caveat. If the family will work with Trinity to make that sacrifice on both of our parts possible. If you're not willing to sacrifice at this time, please don't ask the rest of us in the family of faith to sacrifice for you. All of us are going to work this together, and we work hard together. So, out of that, our table conversation, what information surprised you regarding tuition? What questions come to mind? And do you understand and agree with Trinity's tuition philosophy for our school? Are there changes you'd like to suggest? So that's our second workshop.
Okay, thank you very much for your lively discussion. Do you feel sufficiently frustrated? Do you feel like you've had adequate time to at least begin to deal with these issues? I hope so. And at some risk, I'm going to turn the mic over to this radical group. Could you stand, please?
Hi, Dr. Libka. Good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa Jackson, and I have 2 middle school children. And our group here has some, interesting questions. Oh, thank you. Regarding tuition. First off, we get an F because we didn't put our paper up for number 1, so we'll take that as a. Here's again, we agreed with everything that everyone had written on there. And again, our most troubling and concerning issues by far are the issues that begin in middle school. And we do understand the issues, and I'm sure Dr. Libka is going to be working diligently with everyone to try to overcome some of the issues, well, most of the issues that have came. So we're putting our faith in Dr. Libka. So I will continue on with the tuition. Why is there a member rate for non-member children that attend another church? Why isn't there a member rate? Why is that not extended to the other churches? If you belong to another church and you don't want to leave that other church, like Tammy's been at her church for 35 years. I mean, she has her children all go to the church, et cetera, et cetera. That's a concerning factor. And Frank had mentioned a cost average condition. And then the last thing is we would like to know, what has caused the deduction in Trinity congregation / contribution of funds. When I was here years ago, when we first got here, it seemed that the Trinity congregation was giving an enormous amount, maybe a higher percentage, of whatever that percentage was. And if you do the math now, it seems like it's almost, I don't know, maybe cut in a third, cut in a half. So that question is on our minds too. How did that get to where it's at now? What was the reason behind it?
Okay, thank you very much. This group right here.
I'm praying, Paul.
There you go.
Okay, I'm Dawn Valesky. Hello. No surprises again. We're not a very surprised group, so we're mellow. What are the specific? Oh, the questions are our table had. There seemed to be a lot of emphasis on when families need help, they need to be required to specifically sacrifice. If the church is going to specifically sacrifice, and I guess our group was, what are these specific sacrifices? We're not sure. So it seemed emphatic, but we're not sure what those sacrifices were meaning. Was it financial or other volunteering, church attendance, whatever? And then our comments on the tuition, it's too complicated to say you agree or disagree or be able to provide an answer here tonight. I mean, they're very complicated issues and need complicated partnership answers, and I think that's the concern on the church percentage versus the family percentage. It's not an unwillingness to provide more, it's you reach a point where you can't, and our concerns are as students start to leave, that percentage goes even higher, more students start to leave, goes even higher, and at some point it really becomes a crisis. And I think, so it's not that anybody believes the church isn't giving enough, it's maybe we're getting to some of that crisis when we see students leaving more than gaining every single year. So it's a big concern. So that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. I have one more group, and let's see if I could add a little clarity. Pastor would probably do a much better job on these funding questions, but my understanding is with churches that at times, well, there are churches that have partnership agreements with Trinity based on the presumption of funding support, and then that sometimes is easier said than done.
Yeah. Basically, we don't want people to leave their churches to come to Trinity just to get a discount. So partner churches within the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, Our Savior, we have it with Our Savior. St. Luke's has never asked for one because they have their own school, but St. Paul's, Family and Faith, and Grace, and Emmanuel. Those are the congregations that we said, please stay in your congregation. We will give you a member discount as you are a partner member in that congregation.
Okay, we have time for, did this group report once yet?
No, not yet.
Here you go.
Hi, I'm Jess Guzzi. We'd love to be able to give the teachers a raise for the dedication and everything that they do, but and pay them competitively compared to public schools. But we definitely have a difficulty as where that money would come from. Obviously, we know it would come from us, but they certainly do deserve it, as you see how many hours they put in and their dedication to all of our children here. And what better an investment than our children? And then the other one was covered over here. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, it's been said that something about the dedication of our teachers, and I would add the competency, the skill, experience, and knowledge, ability. I think we owe a great deal to our teachers, and there was a comment about faith in Libka, but I think the faith should be in our teachers, and I'd like the teachers to stand and us to thank them with our applause. Drive down, if you're driving down Rush, 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night, and you want to just test this theory, I have to say, if you drive through the parking lot, you'll see there are still cars here. That's not only the basketball players. You'll see lights on in teachers' classrooms who are so dedicated and working diligently in service to our children and the Lord they love and serve each day. So our partnership together, there is confusion and misunderstanding and frustration regarding membership in and partnership with Trinity in the education of our children at our school. It's like a three-legged stool: family, school, church, and child. And for a child to be educated and raised up in the Christian faith, that partnership is necessary. We know that we have to work at building trust, and it's not something that you can just say, you know, sign here, and by the way, that means you have to trust us too. We have to earn that trust. I believe people are working each day to do so. We probably can always do better, and we can also communicate better. This partnership is the only reason Trinity Lutheran Church supports its school so strongly. Our partnership together requires us to work together to lift up each child. Each of us we bring our best game to the task. We have some challenges we need to face together. We need to be together and determine our best response. It's our working together that's necessary for us to accomplish these great objectives and ideals that we have. And we pledge, teachers I know pledge each day, and on their behalf and on behalf of Pastor and the leadership team, we're all pledging to do the best that we can do and to reach out, embrace you from our perspective as sincerely true partners in this effort. Regarding membership in the congregation, it's been said already, Trinity will support the education of all children to some extent, but will support member families at a higher level than non-member. And it's not a business about, you know, I've joined the club and so now you owe me, but it's a member of our being a part of the same family, focused on the same ideals and are working together towards the same end. Our partnership together, a basic part of membership in a church is worship of God, together fulfilling our vows as parents and congregation that we made to God and one another at our children's baptisms. And those of you, I think most of you in the room have been at baptism services here at Trinity. And you know, Pastor always calls upon us as a congregation to support and nurture and raise up our children in the faith. And so we're constantly reproclaiming and revisiting that commitment to our children. And that's, I think, a large reason for the substantial financial support. Our partnership together, Trinity members are willing to make great sacrifices for partner parents. We've been doing this for years. How can we live together as parents and partners and not make worship a number of visits in order to receive a tuition discount? I think that I could speak on behalf of the whole leadership team and several teachers that we've spoken to and parents that we'd like to not be counting service attendance, but we'd like to be thinking about our partnership and growing together in discipleship and our growing closer to our Savior each day. And we are not certain how to measure that in other ways, but we're committed to pursuing that, and we've already begun the discussion. And if you have ideas about that, don't hesitate to chime in. Our partnership together regarding registration and enrollment issues. As partners in education, we need to have early registration in order to plan budgets and hire teachers. This didn't work so well last year. We actually have, as of June 1st, 2013, 289 students were registered. Only 140 students completed enrollment. 255 actually started school. How can you plan a budget based on that? The teachers that are here, it's deplorable, and I feel so badly about you work, well paid based on Lutheran standards, but not highly paid. You're not wealthy people, and then you're uncertain about your next, whether you're going to be recontracted for the fall. And so whatever we can do using all the intelligence and the gifts God has given us to muster together to figure out a better way to do this so that we have an earlier commitment and confidence that will allow us to budget and continue to move forward in such a way that we preserve Trinity for years to come. Here are some ideas. May 1st enrollment deadline, lower tuition, and raise registration fees significantly, possibly $250 or more. There are actually Lutheran churches in this immediate area that are charging more than $250 for registration and a little bit lower tuition. So that would put some more money up front and maybe make a more dependable prediction. What ideas do you have to help? Regarding tuition increases, our leadership studied the issue for years and implemented a plan to help Trinity schools survive and thrive. Cost increases come each year, and Trinity does its best to share the pain with our partners. It's a stretch for Trinity too. There have been deficit spending years. You maybe mentioned that. And last year was $170,000 in the red. We didn't go to a bank, but that was picked up by Trinity. They didn't pass it on to parents as a part of the budget for this year. It was paid off, and we started again. So that's a strong commitment, and that's sharing the pain. This year we have 12% increase in health care costs and other increases. I imagine all of your expenses go up each year as well. The benefits program and, of course, energy costs. The proposed tuition increase for next year is $150 per student. It's our feeling that you're not going to experience that it'll be level because the Trinity Roselle Foundation will offset some or all of this with a grant of $100 last year. A slight increase of $25 will be added to user fees also. Now let's back up. I was at the foundation meeting. I know Mrs. Burtis, you're here tonight, right? Where are you? There you are. She was there as well and pastor. And are there others that are on the foundation board that are here? I got to tell you, the spirit, we should have taped it, but it was amazing, the clear commitment to the school. I think if we would have just nudged them a little bit more, they might have just, written a big check and taken care of things. But they're basically, they committed already beyond their knowledge of their earnings for the year and said they will cover as a minimum $100. We'll match the previous contribution, and that'll offset this $150. And we will attempt to pay the whole amount. So I think we're optimistic that they're going to come through, and they certainly have the desire. User fees take care of field trips, language instruction, classroom parties, major class events like wall camp and class trips. You know, when you look at other schools, they don't typically do what Trinity does. In our fees up front, it covers these things. Oh, and you explained that already. So comparing apples to apples, it's important to know that. We're working on a plan for the cost of one-to-one computing to be included in the current user fee structure. So children, perhaps starting at the middle school level, will have access to a tablet that they can take home, and at the end of a few years that they'll actually own that tablet computer, and we would use it in our instruction. While everyone is affected by these increases, multiple child families have 2 or 3 increases at the same time. And I know some may say, well, they have multiple children, that's their problem. But, you know, it's all of, I had 3 daughters, but put them through. But anyway, the deal is, if we lose multi-family, multi-child families, let's say we lose 3 or 4 of those, you could be looking at $30,000, $40,000 then that all the single-parent families have to then share now in terms of a big tuition increase. So there's a practical balance that has to be achieved there. We really have to actually pay attention to this. Would parents be willing to have a slightly higher tuition increase in order to offer parents with more than one child a greater tuition discount? Currently it's $750 per child. In the past it's been even more. It's been like a 25% discount for first and a 50% for second. So for your tables, we're asking you to discuss How do we help Trinity members live their membership in the community of believers with their children? Perhaps considering this question of an alternative to counting heads on Sunday morning. How can we make registration and enrollment more effective and complete it earlier for the sake of teachers and budget planning? Should we restructure the multiple child discount, and how? And as you go into that discussion, I was going to say earlier, some asked about doing something about a raise for teachers. The whole staff has kind of had this, they get their increase based on years of experience, unless they're at the top of the scale, some are, but not a base increase. And we're working in the leadership team to, our hope is to achieve that in this fall. We're working on it. Let's start with this group right here, but you know, as we near the end this evening, you can see, don't be clock watchers like I am. I owe it to you to protect your time, but it looks like we're going to finish right on that agreed upon extra 10 minutes. I hope you appreciated the time and to focus on these things, and that as we get you the information back and we turn those into action plans, that also you see Trinity moving forward. Let's start here. Want me to hold it again?
Yes. So our first one is we'd like to see models for lower tuition, more students, fuller classrooms, maybe more teachers that be able to dedicate themselves to specific tasks. We'd like to see how that would plan out. I know we've got a few parents in here who came from schools that were shrinking or had failed. I can't imagine how terrifying it must be for you to see shrinking enrollment here and having to contemplate going through that again. And my guess would be that if it looked like it was going that direction, you would leave rather than go through that again, and we would suddenly see an exodus that could start the actual dwindling of schools. So we got to get in front of this. I had one more. Just one other comment. If you change if you ask us to give more money up front in May, when we didn't budget that into our budget for this year, we're going to have a problem paying you more money, which means you're going to get it later. You're going to get it in like July, which isn't your intent.
No. Very good, thank you. Applause, please. Here.
Hi, I'm Lynn Walleen. Our table just wanted to mention that we felt like worship attendance is really important. And we have a table of everyone who's been here at least 6 years. And all of us started out at Trinity School a little bit resistant to the worship attendance requirement. You know, maybe we were feeling like we didn't want anyone telling us that we should be going to church. But then after the time of attending church from a duty perspective, then we found that it changed our life because our faith relationship with Jesus grew, and that then passed on to our children. And so we see a definite connection and a definite benefit to that. We don't see a reason why the requirement is negative. In fact, when we get to conversations where we're talking about it with people who are volunteering with us and saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to go to church, it gives us an opportunity to kind of share our testimony too and let them know how it has changed our life. And so we like the way that that's measured and thinks it should continue. The one area where we thought maybe we could help people partner with their children and live out their membership better would be clarity on or more opportunities for volunteer hours, ways that families could live out their membership and to know what counts. For example, I gave the example that I've volunteered in the school quite a bit over the past years, but this year I haven't been able to as much, and I wasn't included on a volunteer luncheon list, and it made me start to wonder, was my participation in field trips going to count towards my 10 hours of service to get my member tuition rate? So I need to check on that, but that I think then shows that it needs to be communicated better so that people know if they work full-time where they can volunteer in the church and where it's going to give them opportunities to volunteer.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate the input. And this, another table? We didn't get, no? Anything back here to add? Dave?
All right, like David Kelly's table there, we kind of went off and didn't follow the questions per se, but the school is the church's #1 mission, right? Yet we have decreasing enrollment, and increasing tuition year after year. I've been here for 10 years. I've had 4 kids go through Trinity here, and every year it's been the same direction. And in my opinion, we don't have a plan. We don't even have goals at this point as to where we want to be as a school. There was a time when there were 500 kids in this school, double classes, across the board, and I don't see us having a goal or a mission to be there. And I think that's something that we need to make some serious changes in now. So as I look at tuition increases that we're talking about and some of the concerns about registration, I think we need a totally different mind shift to focus on how we're going to promote the school, how are we going to talk about the importance of a Christian education, and what is that marketing plan for us to grow the school here. Thank you.
Great ideas, thank you. We got those goals coming, thanks to all your input. Appreciate it.
2 things I'd like to say. Everything has already been mentioned. Going off of what Dave said, we've been here 3 years now. We've noticed a gradual decline in student population. Last year probably being one of the larger declines. And of those students, and I don't have the exact numbers, but some of those students populated back into the public schools. But many of those students went to some of the surrounding private schools. And it's because the tuition is lower. And that's the reason that we were given for with the people that we spoke with. Tuition is a big issue. If you want to bring students back to the school, I think we need to look at ways of making the tuition a little more competitive to some of the surrounding schools, in addition to promoting the school. And then kind of expanding onto what you were saying as far as the membership discount. Yeah, there are some incentives, there are some benefits of being a member bringing you to church, but if you already go to church, whether it's a Trinity or another church, your relationship with God is going to be strong regardless of what church you go to. Now, the benefit of being a member and forcing you to go to church, if you don't already go to church, that is a huge benefit because it's forcing you to go. I'm not saying that this is my view or what I'm about to say, but these are the views of some of the people that I've spoke with. They get to 30 and out. They count down. I got 29 left, 28 left, 27 left. They show up to church, and the relationship with God doesn't exist because they're there out of obligation, and that's wrong. Yeah, you're bringing them in. The numbers are there. They're either A, not contributing or tithing, B, they're not getting anything out of the message. So for that reason, I think that should go to the wayside. You can cost average tuition to make it a little more affordable. In turn, I believe that would make Trinity a little more competitive from an affordability standpoint.
Appreciate that. Make sure you get those on the paper there, and we'll include them in our report to the rest of the folks. You can see we've just hit to the second just about. I think we're 10 seconds over our time for this evening, and I appreciate your indulgence, your input. Thank you again for coming this evening. Grab a cookie for the ride home. Hopefully, if you live more than 5 blocks away, it takes you less than 30 minutes to get there. And thank you again for being here with us and being partners in our ministry at Trinity. Good night.